You think you know how the world works, right? We all do. Solid things are solid, time only moves forward, the past is pretty much how we picture it. But what if I told you that reality is, well, a whole lot weirder than you think? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on common sense and look at some absolutely incredible truths that will make you question everything you take for granted.
So let's start with something super basic, touch. Right now, maybe you're holding your phone or your hand is on your desk. You feel it, don't you? It feels solid. But what if that whole feeling is an illusion? What if I told you that on a deep physical level, you have never, ever made direct contact with another object?
So, what's actually going on? Well, the atoms that make up your hand and the atoms in that desk are mostly just empty space. And around the center of every atom is a cloud of these tiny things called electrons. As your hand gets super close to the desk, the electron clouds from your atoms start pushing away the electron clouds of the desk's atoms. You know, it's like trying to force two magnets together on their north poles. You feel that intense resistance, right? That force? That is what your brain calls touch. You're literally feeling a force field, not the object itself. Wild, huh?
Okay, so that's our first big crack in how we see reality. The very idea of touching something isn't what it seems. But we're just getting warmed up. Let's take that same critical thinking and point it at something we feel like we really understand: time. Our sense of history feels so logical, so linear. But is it? When you think about dinosaurs, we kind of just lump them all together, don't we? You imagine a T-Rex fighting a Stegosaurus in some jungle. But get this, the Stegosaurus lived about 150 million years ago. The T-Rex? It showed up way later, around 66 million years ago. That's a time gap of more than 80 million years between them. To put that into perspective for you, the gap between the T-Rex and the very first humans is only about 64 million years. Let that sink in. The T-Rex, the absolute icon of the dinosaur age, lives closer in time to us than it did to the Stegosaurus. And our idea of human history is just as twisted. We always associate Queen Cleopatra with the pyramids in Egypt. I mean, she ruled there, it makes sense. But the Great Pyramid was finished around 2560 BC. Cleopatra lived around 30 BC. That means the pyramids were already ancient, over 2,500 years old by the time she was even born. In fact, her life is closer on a timeline to the 1969 moon landing than it is to the building of the pyramids she's so famous for. History is not a flat picture. It's got some serious depth. So our mental timeline is often completely out of whack with the real one. But it's not just the timing we get wrong. It's the pictures in our heads, too. The way we imagine the past is so often shaped by movies and pop culture instead of, actual science. So let's do a little rewriting. Okay, I want you to picture a dinosaur right now. I'm willing to bet you're imagining a huge, scaly, lizard-like creature, probably green or gray. That's the image we've all had drilled into our heads for decades, right? The classic movie monster. And for a long time, that's what science thought too. But that picture, it's totally out of date. The reality is way cooler. We now have fossil evidence that shows many dinosaurs, especially the family that includes T-Rex, had feathers. Not for flying, but maybe to stay warm or for showing off. And here's the kicker. Birds aren't just descended from dinosaurs. They literally are dinosaurs. They're a branch of the family that survived the big one. And the idea they were all giants? Nope. Sure, many were huge, but some, like the Compsognathus, were about the size of a turkey. And this whole myth versus reality thing happens in human history, too. Let's talk about the medieval knight. In the movies, they're so agile, right? Leaping onto their horse, having these nimble sword fights. They're the ultimate warrior in that shining armor. It's this powerful, romantic image, but it's mostly fiction. The truth about wearing a full suit of plate armor was a lot more clumsy. That gear was incredibly heavy. So heavy that a knight often needed his squires to help him get onto his horse, sometimes even using a little crane. And if you fell over in the middle of a battle, that was seriously bad news. The weight of the armor made it almost impossible to get back up on your own, leaving you totally vulnerable. It was about being a tank, not a sports car. All right, so we've messed with your idea of touch, time, and history. Now, let's go deeper and look at the actual rules that run the universe. We think of physics as being predictable, but sometimes it works in ways that make absolutely no common sense. Okay, here's a simple question for you. You want to make some ice cubes and you want them fast. You fill one tray with cold water from the tap and another with hot water. You put them both in the freezer. Which one freezes solid first? I mean, it's gotta be the cold water, right? It has a massive head start. Seems like a no-brainer.
Well, this is where physics gets weird, because the logical answer is not the right one. Under certain conditions, the hot water will actually freeze faster than the cold water. No joke, this isn't a trick question. It's a real scientific phenomenon called the Mpemba effect.
So how on earth is that possible? Well, scientists think it's a few things working together. For starters, the hot water evaporates more quickly, so there's just less water to freeze by the end. At the same time, the way water circulates as it cools, that's called convection, is more efficient when it starts hot, so it sheds its heat faster. Plus, dissolved gases escape from hot water more easily, and that changes how it freezes. It's this perfect storm of physics that just flips our common sense on its head. Now, these weird rules aren't just for science labs or outer space. They're happening right here, inside of us. Let's bring this whole journey into the bizarre right down to you and the hidden strangeness in your own body. Okay, this might be the most mind-bending fact of them all. Einstein's theory of relativity says that heavy things like planets actually warp space and time. So Earth's gravity is a little bit stronger closer to its center. Since your feet are closer to the center of the Earth than your head is, time is literally passing just a tiny, tiny bit slower for your feet than it is for your head. Your head is aging infinitesimally faster than your toes. It's a ridiculously small difference, but it's real, it's measurable, and it's happening to you right now. Now here's a weird body trick that's a lot more noticeable. What's this number? That's about how much taller you are in the morning than you are at night. All day long, as you're standing and walking around, gravity gently squishes the cartilage discs in your spine. But when you lie down to sleep, that pressure is gone. Your spine decompresses, it stretches back out, and you're actually taller when you wake up. And for our final bit of strange reality, let's end on a fact that is surprisingly and kind of disgustingly human. Ever wonder how people did laundry before modern detergents? Well, if you were an ancient Roman, you might have used urine. Yep. You heard me. Urine contains ammonia, which is a fantastic chemical for breaking down grease and stains. They even set up public pots to collect it, and it was so important for the laundry business that the government put a tax on it. A tax on pee. It's a little gross, but it's also brilliant ancient chemistry. So here's the bottom line. From the atoms in our hands to the flow of time and the story of our planet, the world is just not what it seems. Our common sense is really just a set of rules that works for our very specific human-sized life. But the universe is so much bigger and stranger and more fascinating than that, which leaves us with one last big question to think about. If our whole understanding of reality is this fragile, what else have we gotten completely wrong? What other incredible truths are just waiting for us to find?